correspondent in River State, Emmanuel Ere, helping us to make sense of the events that led to the eventual suspension of the collation and announcement of results operations there in River State. But again, the story is still the same. Brett, I'll allow you to round off on your thoughts before we break.
I was saying that you find out also one of the reasons why this is prevalent also is the fact that we are not sincere with the truth. In 2015, when the former commissioner of River State and who later became IG Zone 2, Umbu, he instructed his policemen that if thugs shoot at you, that you should fire back. APC, that was the then opposition party, condemned such statement in strong terms. Because even before then, they had even obtained a judgment, restraining the use of military for election. And the PDP that were in government then encouraged it, that it was to keep peace. And but today the roles are reversed. While the APC government is encouraging it today, the use of might, the PDP government, because they are the receiving end, the PDP, as a party, because they are at the receiving end, now see the need to condemn it. For me, that's, inconsistency of leadership. And also, you see, the people also are divided. We should stand with the truth irrespective of who is involved. And that's the only way we'll be able to achieve, meaningful results. A situation where, because your party is in power, whatever they do seems right. Even if they use fraudulent means to obtain results, it seems right. Also, you're setting a very bad precedent because you're telling people that once you can use fraudulent means to get there. And once you get there, you can do as you like. We should also, as a people, learn to stand on the side of truth as we start or kickstart the process of reforming our electoral processes.
I would like Ajijola and Yemi to respond to this question, but probably I'll go to Yemi first. In Imo State, we saw a particular gentleman there rip the results sheets apart. Now, how much setback is this going to give is this going to have on the process? Are we talking about hours? Are we talking about days? Especially given the fact that some of these, the data in that document, that physical document, would have been recorded in some digital format.
Well, I think maybe hours, because technically every party agent should have a copy of the results. So if they're able to sort of regroup and calm down and actually just even assess the loss, where exactly are we missing documents, which documents were torn, and if the party agents, other party agents then sort of agree that, okay, we all have this, so we can use this copy, then I think we should be fine. Where we would have a problem is if the other party agents are not willing to play ball. And for whatever reason, they found a way to then say, oh, no, that's not the case. Oh, no, that's not the case. Because if party agents are denying what is being presented or don't agree, then it will be practically impossible to declare results.
All right. Ajijola, how do you respond? Even though we have information from our correspondents that following that uproar, the collation exercise there has been postponed.
Absolutely, and the event really leading up to the man ripping up the result sheet went this way. The gentleman was reacting to results from Idato local council area, which he disagreed with, and therefore he reacted by snatching it and ripping it apart. He disagreed with the result.
Yes, Idato South.
Idato North.
And the current governor is from, I think, Idato South also, one of the Idatos. And so.
Well, I mean, whether Idato North or South, it was a completely uncalled for reaction.
Well, already the collation is complete up to the local government level. So that's why they're in the State Collation Center. So basically, the results are intact for the local government. The problem is, I'm not sure what the guy tore up, whether he tore up the Idiato local government results or whether he tore up the state collation. Now, if he tore up the Idiato local government, it's a very simple situation because all they have to do is their countercopies of it, and then they can basically use, because the local government result is just feeding into a single line on the EC 8D, which is the state collation. So it's just one line for each local government. So it's very simple. But if what they tore was because with the fracas, I couldn't determine that. If what they tore was the state collation one, it means that everything that has been entered there is, I mean, you can't use that sheet again. But I'm sure, I think INEC has more than one set of these things for these elections, because even by law, there's enough prepared even in the case of a runoff as well. So I'm sure there's more than one, so they can access it and probably rewrite it. So in this case, it's not like an inconclusive election that you have to come back to do this. It's just an issue of, if it's the state coalition they tore up, it's just to give it enough time to douse the tension and probably call them back to be able to rewrite all the LGAs that have already been written. So it really depends whether it's the LGA or the state. But either way, I don't see them delaying, like Amy said, a few hours. Probably later today they will reconvene.
I think it's the
with tighter security.
I think it is document from the local government, because from the visual we saw, you could still see the state collation officer with his own document. But the document he collected were the ones from a returning officer from a local government that he was called upon to come, present.
All right, we got assurances, especially from the police, that things were under control. But we saw that there was enough time to the final build-up, where we saw the ripping of papers and then the exchange of blows. Would it have been out of place for the police to have quietly taken someone away whom they identified to
he was being led away.
To be a threat to the process.
Sorry, quickly.
No, before this happened,
they appeared to react slowly
on the basis of constituting nuisance.
Everybody there is a representative of a political party, and so they have a right to. And if you notice, also the police were not inside the hall; they were outside, and so they have a right to complain. Also until matters get out of hand, before somebody would go inform the police of what is happening, which is what you subsequently saw. But before now, even when we're talking about preparation to election, INEC had insisted consistently that they were prepared, but that the only areas they had fears were the security agencies, and that in most cases where elections are manipulated, it is with the backing of the security agency. If you remember also, in 2015, some police officers, as collaborators with INEC officials, were prosecuted for collecting bribe to subvert, the election results in Rivers. And so INEC consistently had raised this concern that, the security, even though the security are collaborators or they're supposed to be partners in the process, in the election management process, but they don't have full control of the security, apparatus during election. And so this security also are completely controlled by, a different organization. And also, this also brings us back to the Peace Committee. The Peace Committee shouldn't just be about signing peace accord. There's need for us to actually discuss peace. And there's need for us to also reorientate ourselves on what it means to actually be peaceful during election. And the orientation of how do we see election and election processes. This win at all cost mentality is also, what leads to impunity and that was also seen.
Exactly. We had presidential elections 2 weeks before, and there were flaws. Now, they say experience is the best teacher. Now, Yemi, I'd like to know, we appear not to have learned any lessons from the problems of the past. As a matter of fact, this time around, it appears to be worse. How come, we're unable to learn from our mistakes and then improve upon them. And I'm not talking about the electoral umpire alone. I'm talking about security officials. I'm talking about electoral officials. I'm talking about all stakeholders.
Well, again, as I said earlier, I think it's really just the fact that there's no penalty. At the very simplest form of it, for parents who have children, for people who've managed teams, when people do wrong things and they don't get punished, there's no discussion, there's no sort of plan to say, okay, this is what we're wrong, this is what we'll do right, and then it's sort of a monitoring and evaluation process, then we will repeat the same thing. I mean, look at all that has happened with Rivers and people's concerns around the military, civil society calling on Mr. President as Commander-in-Chief to call the military to order. We haven't heard a peep from Mr. President. Mr. President is having meetings celebrating his victory as if the people are not dying, as if we're not trying to have normal elections, and they're agencies of the state that are making that very difficult. So what signal does that send? I mean, it's one of the earliest things that was a joke when he first came into his office was Mr. President's body language. So if we use that same analogy in this situation, Mr. President's body language quite clearly says, I really don't care, and I'm really not bothered, and this is really not that important that we've lost 58 Nigerians, and probably still counting, because people want to go out to vote. So again, impunity. When there's no punishment for bad behavior, the bad behavior continues. And I think this, no matter how much INEC, yes, has a responsibility, security agencies have a responsibility, our political parties have a responsibility, but ultimately, I think from where we sit, Nigerian citizens really need to decide what it is that we want and what price it is that we're willing to pay for the kind of Nigeria that we want. So if this is what we want to do every 4 years, have elections that keep people up all night, I mean, you guys have been in that studio all night, analyzing, reviewing, tracking, all of that for 3-4 days, grinds an economy, we can't move, we can't do anything, people are dying, people don't go out to vote, people don't care, first-time voters are being shot and killed, parents are mourning. If that's the kind of election we want to have, that's the kind of election we're going to get. But if we decide that, you know what, elections are meant to be quite simple. I leave my house, I go out and vote. Results are counted, they're announced. Winners are happy, losers congratulate winners, and we keep it moving and run a country. Then we will be willing to do the work that is required. And the work involves, one, civic education. It's not just this is how you vote, put your thumb here, no. But even letting citizens understand what it means that they have, that we're in a democracy. What does it mean that you have 109 senators, 360 House of Rep members, State House of Assembly members that, like, probably 95% of Nigerians don't know who they are or what they do, that you have governors, that you have a president, that you understand the structure and the architecture of governance, understand your place in it, understand your role in asking questions, holding people accountable to how they spend money, how they make decisions, because they're ultimately representing you. Until we help Nigerians understand the role that they have in this, then will they be able to look at the political class and say, no, this is not the type of representation I want, and I want to have a say in it. Kwara has been lauded in this electoral process for their Otoge movement and voting and using their voice. It'll be interesting to see how that then translates into the citizens then remaining engaged in the process. Otoge is not just about kicking somebody out or kicking a certain set of people out, but it's saying that, you know what, this is not what we want, this is not the type of governance that we want. So for us, we're particularly interested in how that translates into, okay, since you've kicked a particular group of people out and you've brought in new people, how do you engage the new people? Or you're giving them 4 years of grace to do whatever, and then 4 years later you suddenly say, nah, this is not working. No. So it is a process, but it's a process that all of us have to be invested in. From the media, the type of stories the media tells, the type of space media provides to show citizens that things can happen. So I think it should be a reflective process for all of us in the different roles that we play
I have to
in the
at this
ecosystem.
moment, Jimmy. Again, I know you won't be happy to hear this news just coming in. The electoral process in Adamawa State has been declared inconclusive. That's in addition to Bauchi, Plateau, and Sokoto states. So we have 4 states where the governorship election process has been declared inconclusive. And this brings to mind the multilateral, multi-level, hydra-headed levels of wastes that we have seen in this election. I would like our guests to stay with us. We'll go into our news studio now to bring you news on top of the hour. At half the hour, we'll be back to take it to 7 a.m., where another belt of the verdict will continue. Join us again.